All right, now to answer one like this, you kind of want to do this, you probably want to do this on paper first so that you already have it in mind how you want it, because if you mess up, you have to clear everything off and start over. So I do recommend drawing it out first so you can save yourself some frustration. But of course, I'm not going to follow my own advice because I just want to get through this video as quickly as possible. So I am going to go ahead and just do it on the fly. So it says f of x equals, so that means y equals different things depending on what x equals, right? X has these different um, intervals. And so the y value is going to be different or calculated differently for each of those intervals of x. So for the first interval of x, which is from, -2 all the way back towards negative infinity, we are going to have y equaling -3 everywhere in that interval. So I'm going to use the line segment, or not the line segment. The line segment just has two endpoints, but the ray, it has one endpoint and then it goes on towards infinity in one direction. So I'm going to go to where x equals -2 and y equals -3 as my starting point. So that's, here's x equals -2, here's y equals -3. So I'm going to start my array there and go towards negative infinity. It doesn't really matter where you place that second point as long as the y value is -3 still. Now you can put a little point on the end of it, but before we do that, let's see what happens with the next segment. So do all your line segments and rays first, and then add your points if needed, end points. All right, so x minus 1. So that is a line that has -1 for the y-intercept and a slope of 1. So it's going to be a line segment because it's only going from -2 to +2, and then we're going to change to another section again. So I'm going to use the line segment tool this time. Starting at x equals -2, I'm going to pick up with, um, it's going to probably touch the end of this line segment. It doesn't have to, but it probably will. But let's see what happens because I need to know that I'm doing a line through -1 on the y-axis. And then with a slope of +1, I would go backwards and down 1, backwards 1, down 1, backwards 1, down 1. And notice that if I keep doing that, I do hit the end of this line segment. So I'm going to use my line segment tool, start right there, and then just make sure I'm doing a slope of 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, and double confirm that it is going through -1 on the y-axis, and keep going because we want to go until x equals 2. So up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, and that is where x equals 2. So I'm going to stop that segment. So that piece of the function is done. This piece of the function is done. We have one more piece where whenever x is greater than +2, we have y equal to -1. So I'm going to need my ray tool again, and I'm going to go to where x equals 2, and then find where y equals -1 and start there. And then since y has to always equal -1 as long as x is greater than 2, I should have a ray starting here and moving towards the right. Okay, so now all the line parts are done. Now we might need some endpoints. Now where the first piece of the functions and the second piece of the function connected, we do not need to put a point there. Where we do need endpoints is at the end of this second piece of the function, right here where x equals 2, and where the next one starts. So notice that for this line segment, the second piece of the function, it was for where x is strictly greater than -2 and up to where x is greater than, or I'm sorry, x is less than or equal to 2. So I need a closed dot to include the value of 2 on that segment, okay? And an open circle at the beginning of the next piece, because for the next piece it just says if x is strictly greater than 2, not equal to it. So I don't want to include the point on that segment that's at x equals 2, but everything after it. So now that should get me a good, correct answer. Okay, so I find that students have a little bit of difficulty if they're putting down dots and things first. So remember to do the line parts first and then figure out what endpoints you might need to add to it.